Help me get the lights." "What?" I shivered. "The lights." "It can't find us in the dark." We went torch by torch and shut it all down. The room went completely dark, and we gathered by Dawn's hiding spot. We crouched next to her, trying to calm down. "It's part of it, right?" whispered Dawn. "Is Aggie in on it? Or are you just fucking with me?" "No. Something's wrong," I whispered back. "I'm sorry." "Dawn, there's bullshit," wheezed Lindsay. "This is fucking bullshit, and I'm not who's got the phone." We all went quiet. Aggie was the one with the phone. "There has to be fucking something," said Lindsay. "Feel around." "For what?" I wheezed. "Where? I don't know." "How the fuck should I know?" Just try. Do something." I stepped up to the door. Still locked and no one outside. I started feeling around, only to find 2 cables. They might just be a light or something, but there was another possibility. Look, maybe the door is locked until we text them, or time is up. What if the door unlocks? Like, what if it unlocks when we solve it? "It won't work," sighed Lindsay. "There are some things in here that require a staff member to manually click something open with a button. Some clues just won't work without it. But I don't think there's anyone out there anymore. What about fire escapes? You can't just lock people in a room." I could hear Lindsay sink down to the floor. "This is a mistake," she cried. "All of it." The side door slammed open again. Big, heaving footsteps came in. Even in the complete dark, we could tell there was someone huge in here with us. Someone who smelled like dirt. Again, something sharp scraped across the floor. "Byron, get another one." A voice laughed. "Whichever you like." I just pushed myself up against the wall and turned my head on the side. I tried making myself as flat as possible. I knew Lindsay was doing the same. Dawn, on the other hand, was panicking. "No," she coughed. "No, no, 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 no." A loud, pig-like snort. The scraping thing was lifted off the ground. I heard 2 feet firmly planting in the ground as something heavy was lifted, and Dawn fell to the ground with a thud. She tried to talk, but she'd had all wind knocked out of her. Instead, she just tried to get away. I heard a loud exhale, the kind of sound where someone gets something heavy dropped on them. And in the seconds that followed, I heard this large being, Byron, violently drag Dawn out of the room. To the untrained ear, her scream was almost the same as Aggie's. As the door slammed shut again, I could hear Lindsay sobbing just a few feet away. I couldn't move. My body was stopping me from comforting her, and I'd been so tense my neck was stiff from pushing my face against the wall. For what felt like hours, we just waited. It was probably just minutes. She fumbled her way over to one of the tables, flipped it on its side, and broke a leg off. Then she did it again and handed the second leg to me. "Don't just let them, you know," she said. "Okay? Yeah," I nodded. "Yeah. No, I won't." I started to hyperventilate as my fingers wrapped around the slippery wood. There was no way I could use this. My hands were so sweaty, the thing was falling out of my grip. I couldn't fight, not with that. Not against whatever was taking us out one by one. Maybe barricade the door?" she said. "Yeah, let's wait." It was a good idea, but it was too dark. That, and I could hear the footsteps coming again. Faster this time. Determined. The thing entered on its own. No guiding voice. Lindsay and I held hands and pushed ourselves up against the wall. I couldn't hear it dragging anything this time, but I could hear lips smacking, followed by these high-pitched micro-grunts. Whatever it was loud, and it was munching on something. It wandered around for a while, feeling around the table, the chest, and even the little side room. After a few minutes, it seemed satisfied not to have found us and headed back to the door. Just as it was about to exit, we hit the 90-minute mark. The game, partly automated, was still running. The projector came on again, displaying this large woman in the ceiling. The entire room was lit up. It immediately saw us. The thing was easily 6'8". It was dressed in this sort of torn varsity jacket with filthy mud-covered jeans. There were long strands of black fur poking out of every cut and tear in its clothes, making it look like a badly stuffed scarecrow. It wasn't fully human. His head looked like a boar. It looked right at us, its snout twitching with excitement. He had these small, dark eyes. I'll never forget how, when it looked at me, they lit up with nothing but joy. No matter the species, you can just tell. It was looking forward to this. There was no fear, no malice, just unbridled, violent joy. Like a kid tearing into a happy meal. Meeting my eyes, the thing just screamed like a wounded pig and charged. I stepped on my own feet and stumbled backwards. Hadn't it been for Lindsay still holding my hand, I would have gone down like a sack of flour. Instead, I barely stayed on my feet as we rushed to the other side of the room. Still down there, playthings. The recording in the ceiling spoke. Will you not give up? As the video played above us, the light in the room shifted. Whenever she was more in frame, the light grew more distant. When she moved back, the full moon came into view. He'll get you, playthings, the narration continued. It is so futile. There was blood on his jacket. Fresh blood. As the video finished, we'd ran a full lap of the room. We were back at the door, and this time he was charging straight ahead. At the last second, Lindsay let go of my hand, and we fell to the side. The Boar-Man ran straight into the door. It seemed to upset him, as he focused all his rage on it, all the while roaring like a wounded animal. Hunger. It didn't take him long to break the door open, and as light flooded in, he turned to look down the hall. The brightness from the street outside seemed to scare him as he took off out the back. Lindsay and I stayed on the floor a couple of seconds just to ensure ourselves that the thing was gone. We eventually crawled out the door, ready to run. There were bloodied handprints on the walls, blood spatter on the ceiling. We ignored it all, got up, and went straight for the exit. Come on, come on, come on. I'd sprained my ankle and Lindsay was bleeding from her hand. We were about 40 feet from the door when we heard that voice again. The voice that guided the Boar-Man. Neither of us turned to see him. We just had to keep going. Tell them, he screamed. Tell them there will be no carnival games in the name of her ladyship. Tell them to fear. Tell them all. Tell them to fear the grinning witch. He laughed so hard he couldn't breathe. We burst through the doors and into the night, and far behind us, the laughter faded. Putting it all in writing feels a bit weird, like I'm telling someone else's story. But Lindsay is as real as the last time I met her, and I don't think we'll ever overcome the trauma. I still feel myself stopping at random times, listening for footsteps. Lindsay has developed a sort of claustrophobia. No more locked doors, ever. The police chalked it all up as an armed robbery. The security cameras picked up 4 intruders getting in through the back door. 3 hooded figures and a large masked man in a varsity jacket. The case was handed off to a special unit and promptly dropped. We didn't get any updates after that. It wasn't filed as a kidnapping, or murder, or similar. All they could prove was the break-in, but as far as what happened to Dawn, Aggie, and the staff members, no one knows. There was no car speeding off into the night. There were no witnesses. They seemingly vanished into thin air. It is true that the grinning witch was a bit of a local legend. A witch that collected cursed animals and people, and put them all in a box. The escape room barely had anything to do with it, though. It was just loosely based on that idea. But somehow that was enough to draw out some kind of hate sect. But I'll never forget the man with the boar head. No matter how I think about it, no matter how I try to wrap my head around it, I can't stop thinking about him. That was no man in a mask. That snout was wet, and those teeth were real. Nut jobs are everywhere, but that thing? No, it couldn't be. It literally couldn't be. I don't think this will ever be resolved.